Thank you for joining us here on this episode of 10 Weather Chat.
Absolutely.
We are moving into spring, and that means the temperatures are rising, the daylight hours are getting longer, the allergies are going crazy.
Oh, yeah.
And we've got to keep an eye on the potential for severe weather.
Absolutely. We're feeling blue today. No, just teasing. We're feeling great, and we're going to talk about severe weather. You may have a lot of questions on what makes a thunderstorm severe, and this is the spring season when we typically see more thunderstorms, some of which could be strong to severe. So we're going to walk through that, Cass.
Yeah, we typically see our thunderstorm activity in general ramp up as we go through March.
Right.
And then it's highest during April, May,
Right.
and even into June. And then you get into the more pop-up style daytime heating thunderstorms during the summer months. Then we have a secondary potential severe weather season in the fall. So we thought it would be a good time to kind of cover some of the information that you might need as we head into the slightly more active time of year.
Yeah.
Now during spring, this is when we get that setup of Gulf of Mexico moisture coming up from the south, cold fronts still coming in from the northwest, you get the clashing of the air masses, and that's when you start to get strong storms.
We saw a little bit of that recently. Thankfully, we did not experience as much severe weather as parts of the Ohio Valley did, but you probably saw that in the news, though, some of the tornadic activity in the Ohio Valley and some of those severe storms, that winter storm in the Rockies, clash of the air masses, definitely typical as you head through the spring months.
And so now we want to draw your attention to a map that shows you the number of tornadoes by the county within our viewing area from 1950 to 2023.
Yeah.
So there are some counties that pop out at you here. Cumberland, Fentress, and down in McMinn County have all had over 20 tornadoes.
Right.
And a little bit of the reason behind why they may have higher numbers than some of our other counties is the direction that the storms typically come in from.
Exactly. You easily pops out. Fentress, Cumberland counties, and McMinn County. We see that typical favored direction from the west-southwest. So as far as McMinn County, Monroe County, the higher numbers, when we get those strong severe storms coming right up from Chattanooga up the valley, that's a favored direction and pattern for severe storms. And a lot of times the Cumberland Plateau in general, storms coming from the west, they take the brunt of the storms for us here in East Tennessee. So that's another reason. Notice how it really drops off from Morgan a little bit more into portions of Anderson and Scott. Some of these numbers are fascinating.
Yes.
There's some other reasons that we have for those
There's some
numbers.
other, like you said, reasons to come to this. Part of it is population density.
Yes.
That matters. That's why Knox County's numbers are so high.
Right.
As opposed to maybe Union and Granger counties and maybe even up into parts of Anderson and Campbell counties, slightly lower numbers, maybe due to lower population density. So if the tornado doesn't actually hit a populated area, did it happen? It's kind of what we go to.
More eyeballs to see it and to be reported. So that's a lot of what's going on in some of those too.
Yeah, so also don't look at this and be like, oh, well, my county has a lower number, I'm safe. That just means that, again, did it happen? Or did it happen and we just weren't able to go to the damage, or there wasn't any damage other than trees, so it didn't really get the attention that it needed. So, so don't be deterred by that, and also don't be more scared if you're in any of the higher counties as well. Everybody as uniform needs to be alert to potential tornadoes across our area.
Exactly. It's happened in all counties. You know, tornadoes have happened in all 50 states. So it can happen anywhere, but there are some tendencies, and there's some tendencies as far as by month, by time of day, et cetera, and we'll look at those now. Okay.
Yes, so March, we start to see the numbers climbing. April, now April may have been swayed by a couple different events that have happened during the month of April that may have boosted these numbers just a little bit. 2011 kind of sticks out as a year that popped up those numbers pretty high. May and even into June also tend to see those higher numbers. The August tornado that we had in 2022 was extremely rare.
Very rare.
I mean, look at how low the numbers are in August. And this is for all of East Tennessee. The fact that it happened in Knox County, it was the first tornado on record in Knox County in the month of August.
In the month of August. Very rare. And to throw in April to 1974, of course, and then 2011 surpassed that.
Two super outbreaks.
There is a reason that, you know, you're still getting those active fronts. You mentioned that right up off the top, Cass. Those clashing air masses, those strong fronts. Gulf of Mexico moisture, still getting some cold air before it warms up all the way. So that's a clear signal. And then we kind of come on down. You mentioned a secondary severe weather season in October and November.
That's when the cold fronts start coming back again. And so that's when we could have, again, the potential for that. Now, if you're thinking back to last year in 2023 in the fall, we didn't have that secondary severe weather season. We moved into an El Nino, which tends to kind of take a lot of that active weather a little farther to our south. So just, it doesn't happen every year, but it just tells you the time of year that you need to be more paying more attention.
Exactly.
Now, as we mentioned, we have had tornadoes in every county in our viewing area. most of them have been on the weaker side, and that's what this shows here is the EF rating.
Right.
This is a damage scale that the National Weather Service uses to determine how strong the winds likely were that caused that damage. So this goes back to the question of, if it didn't hit a strong structure, is it going to get a lower EF rating? Let's say there were winds of 130 miles per hour, but it hits a barn, and that only takes 80 to knock it down. The damage, it's only going to be rated lower because that's the amount of damage that we found. It's
a damage intense scale. It's not like there's a popular movie, I think Twister, and you don't look at it and go, oh my gosh, that's, and they used to say F3, that's an EF3 or E4. It's not by the look of the wedge or the tornado, it's by the damage that it produces. So that's a great point, Cass.
So looking at this, most of our tornadoes are on the weaker side, but we have had some stronger ones along the way.
Right.
And as a tornado is developing, when we start to see it on the radar and the potential is there, the warning is issued, we have no idea how strong it's going to be. So every tornado is dangerous, and you need to take shelter regardless of how strong you think it might be based on visual or based on what you see on the radar.
Right. Now, Cass, this is fascinating. What time of day do we typically see more of the tornadoes if we get those here in East Tennessee?
So when we look at this is in military time to give folks a reference here. So at about 2 p.m. where you see that 14 right there, even really 4 p.m., even a little bit later. 4 p.m. into the evening as folks are heading home, picking kids up from school, cooking dinner, or just kind of not necessarily paying attention to what the weather's doing. You're busy during that time. That's when we have the most storms, but they also last after dark, and that's where those little pillars are still strong, higher near Todd. But look at these right here. This is midnight, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 a.m. We do have a higher percentage of nocturnal tornadoes in East Tennessee than other parts of the country. It has to do with how the storms, the large low pressure systems, come together and develop in the plains, and then the speed at which they move to the east.
Exactly.
While the storms tend to be stronger to our west, they can hold together and arrive here, but by the time they get here, the sun is going down typically. And so that makes them even more dangerous because folks may not be paying attention.
They're harder to see at night. It's a trade-off. They're usually more numerous, more intense in West and Middle Tennessee where it's flatter. The topography helps us. Remember the plateau, remember the map, the county just showed it. But the trade-off is, oh, shucks, we typically get those after dark a lot of times.
And sometimes while you're sleeping.
So, yeah, exactly.
And so we don't ever want you to try to go out and see a tornado, to go see it when the warning is issued, because, as Todd was mentioning, the terrain here in East Tennessee, beautiful, lush. We're basically a rainforest. We also have rolling hills and mountains, and those are going to block your vision from being able to see it. Secondary, we have a lot of moisture over here. And so a lot of our tornadoes are rain wrapped. So even if you go out and you try to look, you're not going to see it coming. And that's why we also don't storm chase in this part of the country as well, because you can't see them. They don't look, most of them, don't look like what you see in the pictures and the videos from the Central Plains.
Exactly. They're typically going to form where it's flatter. You know, they say the good news, you can see the tornadoes coming. The bad news, you can see the tornadoes coming. I mean, it's flat and you can see them. It's a little bit of a trade-off there. But here in East Tennessee, the topography impedes our viewing, and especially at night.
Okay, so let's bring up topography here for a common question that we get. My ancestor has always said that we live by a river and tornadoes don't cross rivers. Todd, true or false?
We'll say that's false.
Yeah.
They can cross the river.
Also, I live next to a big hill, and that will protect me from the tornado because it'll skip over me. Is that true or false?
That's false. They do skip sometimes when you have the higher, ridges and stuff, but we've, unfortunately, Mossy Grove, there's a couple of distinct examples of forming on top of the hills and rolling down literally into lower elevation areas and maintaining themselves on the ground. So,
and gosh forbid they come from a different direction.
Exactly.
Come up your valley instead of jumping over your valley.
Exactly.
So the important thing is, no matter where you are and no matter what you've heard and the way things have gone in the past, that doesn't necessarily say that it's going to continue to be that way in the future. So you can't depend on that.
Exactly.
As you just really have to find a good, safe place, lowest level of your home, away from doors and windows. We can get into this more another time, but mobile homes are not a safe place to be during tornadoes. They are just not built to withstand the lifting mechanism that comes with a tornado or the wind speeds that come with a tornado. So a mobile home is not a safe place to be in a tornado.
Yeah, exactly. And one other quick point on this. If we and I know a lot of folks wanted to talk about, I got damage. Was that a severe thunderstorm or a tornado? Well, both can do a lot of damage. Need to take a severe thunderstorm warning just as seriously, and we're going to talk about that as a tornado. If we have tornado potential, that means we have high enough winds to do damage. So back to that tornadoes, it doesn't matter if a tornado's on the ground or not. If we've got an environment that can possibly produce storm, we're going to have some strong, potentially damaging winds. So take those storms seriously and take cover, to your point.
Yeah, a lot of folks report hearing that train noise or the roaring of the wind. So that noise, whether it's from a tornado or it's just from straight line winds, is the leaves rustling on the trees.
Yeah.
That's kind of what you're hearing with that sound. It's not, tornadoes don't produce, I know, if you watch Twister, they roar, they moan, they do all kinds of weird things.
They have it's like their stomach was growling on
They
Twister.
dance, they do all kinds of, don't take Twister as terribly factual with the behavior of tornadoes. It's a great movie, it helps inspire a lot of people.
Value a little bit
Entertainment value there.
Yeah.
But it's important to know that damage, like you said, a severe thunderstorm can do just as much damage as a tornado can.
Right.
And just because you hear something that sounds like a train doesn't mean that it is a tornado. It just means very strong winds are heading towards you and you need to take shelter.
That's it.
Period.
Roaring winds, whether it's a severe thunderstorm or a tornado, take shelter. Yeah.
So now, what is the criteria for an actual severe thunderstorm? Because heavy rain and a lot of lightning.
I got a quarter in my pocket. I don't have a quarter with me today, sorry.
A severe thunderstorm is not because of heavy rain, and it's not because of frequent lightning. We get people all the time that are upset because there's a lot of lightning.
That's just a thunderstorm.
It's just a thunderstorm.
Yeah.
But a severe thunderstorm has to have hail of 1 inch or larger in diameter, which is the size of a quarter.
The size of a quarter, yeah.
And that can do damage, which is why that's the criteria.
Yeah.
Wind, gusts up to 60 miles per hour or greater. Technically it's 58 because they measure it in knots, but 60 miles per hour or greater.
Round it up.
And some severe thunderstorms can produce 70, 80, 90, even 100 mile per hour straight line winds. That's the equivalent of an EF2 or EF1 into EF2 tornado category.
Exactly. Go back to that August 2022 tornado. We had, we had 80, 90 to 100 mile per hour winds with that line of storms within that devastating, damaging tornado that we had.
I mean, we just had that, a month ago when we had those straight line winds come through?
Yeah, exactly.
And we had a 75 mile per hour gust measured at the airport. Everybody was like, it had to have been a tornado, it knocked stuff down.
Yeah.
75 mile per hour winds are a category 1 hurricane. Like that is enough to knock stuff down.
Yeah.
Without it having to be swirling. So you got to take the severe thunderstorms just as seriously as tornadoes.
Exactly.
Also because a severe thunderstorm warning is issued sometimes with a tag
that
says tornado potential.
Right.
Or tornado possible.
Tornado possible.
As in it's not doing it right now, but it's not out of the question that severe thunderstorm could produce a tornado.
Here's a key. Yes, it could produce tornadoes. Tornadoes are going to form from severe thunderstorms, but most severe thunderstorms do not produce tornadoes. So just to understand, don't kind of distinguish.
The horse before the cart, the chicken before the egg.
Exactly. You've got to have wind shear in order to get a severe thunderstorm rotating. That's what will produce a tornado. Thankfully, a lot of our severe storms don't, but just to kind of understand the mechanism, how they form.
Which is why it's important to take every warning seriously. And that's the main message we want to get across to everybody. Whether it's a severe thunderstorm or whether it's a tornado warning, you need to react the same way, and that is to immediately go to a safe place. The lowest level of your home, away from doors and windows, put as many walls between you and the exterior as possible, because a lot of what happens with wind damage isn't just from the wind, it's from the debris that the wind has picked up.
Yes.
It's the pictures that you see of 2x4s shoved through walls or a piece of straw that's been put through a 2x4. That's what's dangerous.
Absolutely. So don't, Todd here, when I love weather, it's not the time to go up by the window and look, wow, look at that severe thunderstorm. You want to get away from windows. Let's talk about this right here. Watch versus warning. Oh boy. Do you know the difference? There's a big difference.
Huge
between a watch and a warning. So now's the time, antennas go up. Let's all get on the same page here.
Watch. Conditions are favorable for whatever it is issued for, whether it's severe thunderstorms or tornadoes.
Right.
That means that
there could be a winter storm watch.
Think of it like this. Watch. Okay, so let's talk about it in the terms of baking.
Right.
Okay, so I want to make a batch of cookies.
Oh, this is a good example.
Cookie watch.
Yeah, I love
I've got
this
my
example.
flour, I've got my chocolate chips, I've got my eggs, I've got everything set out on the counter.
Right.
We're watching for the development of cookies.
Yes, definitely,
okay?
Definitely.
So during a watch, that typically lasts a little while longer. It's going to take me a while to mix these ingredients together.
Right. You got the ingredients.
But I got to put them together.
But nothing's formed yet.
No, and it typically covers a large area as well, just like it would take up a large portion of your countertop to put out your ingredients as well. The bottom line is a watch means that you need to be paying attention.
Exactly.
Watching, paying attention.
Right.
Warning.
Be on the lookout. Go about your day, but be on the lookout.
So cookie warning.
Yeah.
They're coming out of the oven. Here they come. It's happening right now. I'm not still putting them together.
Yes.
At this point. They are together and they are ready to be eaten.
And we need to take action.
You need to take action and eat those cookies.
Eat those cookies.
So that's what we're talking about when we say a warning.
Yeah.
That is the time to take action, to go to your safe place or in some form or fashion to protect yourself from the active weather that is approaching your area.
Right.
Do not phone a friend. Do not pass go.
You're right.
You need to just go. That is something that psychologists have talked about a lot. How do people react when a warning is issued? The first thing they do is go look around. They want to go outside and see it for themselves before they take. So they take action, but it's in the wrong direction.
Yeah.
The time you could have gone down, instead you went up and looked outside.
You don't have a lot of time. When a tornado warning is issued, just be humble. We're going to give you as much warning, hopefully, as we can, meteorologists. It's usually, only a few minutes a lot of times. I mean, hopefully it'll be 10, 15 minutes, enough time, but sometimes you got to act quick.
And they also phone a friend. That's the second thing people tend to do is they call someone else to verify.
Yeah.
Have you seen it? Do you see the tornado? Are you under the warning?
Right.
Everybody's situation is different. And you don't want your friend going out and looking around.
Call them in your safe place.
Yeah, go down there and do
take
that.
Instead of checking out, looking out the window, go immediately to your safe place and then have that discussion.
And this is the warnings typically last 30 to 60 minutes. Sometimes they're shorter than that. They're more like 15 minutes.
Yeah.
And these cover a very specific area that we feel like the threat is happening.
Right.
So now the next part about that is alerts.
Yes.
You should have multiple ways to receive alerts when a watch is issued, or actually even before that.
Yeah.
Check the weather every day.
Yeah.
Just check it, see no active weather, I'm good for the day.
Yeah. And we will probably have a 10-weather impact day issued if that threat is pretty significant and widespread for most of us. That's our way. When you see a 10-weather impact day, it's a different weather day. The impacts from any significant weather are more expected for that particular day, whatever the criteria may be, flooding, wintry weather, severe thunderstorms, tornadoes, et cetera. So pay attention, as Cassie said, well ahead of time, and you got lots of ways to be informed. No excuse to, I didn't know we were going to have severe storm. You do.
The whole without warning.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. Folks, weather changes. I think we know this. So if you check on a Monday and you see that there's a chance maybe for some strong storms on Thursday.
Yeah.
Check again on Tuesday. Check again on Wednesday.
Oh, I got to check back.
Thursday
I can't just
morning.
check Monday and leave it and for a few days.
No.
You can't do that.
Check back on Thursday morning and Thursday afternoon, and then maybe turn on those alerts. Something that I think is underutilized.
Yeah.
X, Twitter, that account.
Right.
You can turn alerts on and off. You can do that on Facebook too.
Yeah.
And we post all that information on there. So for the day of, when active things are happening, just turn on those alerts.
Turn it on.
That way you get them all, and then you can turn off the alerts again when you're done. And you can do that with all of these other options as well. So you don't have to get day-to-day, annoying constant updates.
Right.
But on the day of, you need to be paying attention.
Exactly. There's something that you have to do. And I think
it's a two-way street.
It's a two-way street. It really is. We're going to be here to help. As we talk about sometimes, hold somebody's hand and walk through it. But there is something that you have to do to be prepared and be safe and staying informed well ahead of time and getting these alerts.
So communication is a two-way street. We have ways to put it out on a million different platforms. But if you don't come looking for it, you're not going to find it.
Yeah.
Also, the other thing is we tend to get a lot of personalized messages.
Yeah.
When severe weather is coming. Somebody's like...
You mean like for my specific city?
Yeah, but what about my backyard?
Yeah.
Some people send us their addresses specifically and are like, okay, but I know you said that everywhere has a chance, but what about my area?
Yeah.
And the problem with that is you're not the only one that's sending us messages. I'm not exaggerating when I say we get 200 to 300 of those messages.
Yeah.
As we're also actively tracking these storms,
Yeah.
following up on damage reports and doing that, and we just simply do not have the time.
Yeah.
To go back and answer every single question.
Yeah.
So it's important to know how to find yourself on a map
Yeah.
so that when we show you that map, you can say, oh, I'm not in that.
Yeah, exactly.
Or, oh, I am.
Know where you live on the map. Exactly.
Know where you are on the map, know what county you live in, know the names
Yeah.
of the surrounding counties, know the names of the surrounding towns, know the schools that are around your area.
Right,
Because those are some of the landmarks that we use when we're tracking storms.
Yeah, perfect.
So there's a lot that goes into this, which is why we're starting now, to get folks prepared and educated on how to be prepared for severe weather so that we can help keep you safe when active weather is coming through.
That's it. And we're going to do our best to keep you updated throughout the spring and throughout the year. But wanted to give you some of that information. I hope that's been helpful to you and helped to explain what's behind those severe storms and your role that you have to stay informed.
Thank you so much for joining us on this 10 Weather Chat.